White, hello, bonjour, bonjour, Gaisa Quiet, Tanishi Kirao, hello everybody. We're just going to listen to some river fall sounds as the waterfall of people flow in. Nearly 500 already. I have to let you know that 4,000 people signed up for this workshop. 4,000 people saw the title, Truth and Reconciliation Resources for Kids, and came here to be in this space. So I'm deeply, deeply grateful for each and every one of you. Now, some of you have found the reactions button. So that's super helpful. So there's a closed caption button on the bottom of your toolbar. You might need to click 3 dots with more. So if you click that, it will give a live transcript of what we're saying, if that helps you to engage with the learning better. And there's also a reactions button. Because of course, we'd love to see all your beautiful faces, but it's hard for us to host that many people in meeting style. So we're here in this webinar format, and people are doing their thing. Oh, okay, we don't have forest sounds because I didn't click share. Here it comes again. While we just wait for just a second. Everyone here, you are muted, we can't see you, so please don't worry about cameras and things, just settle in and join us for this beautiful workshop. And I'm just going to get us set up by showing our little introduction here so we can get into the beautiful learning. Just a moment. Okay, I'm not sure if the river's still playing. It's still playing for me. I'm a bit nervous because we've got such a big group today. So just like, ooh. Okay, here we go. So thank you so much for joining us. It's the 24th of September, and today we're doing land-based learning and reconciliation, and these are resources for teaching children. We've got a beautiful panel of speakers, authors, knowledge sharers who are going to come and join us in this space today. Normally I join you from tonight's territory and land that is sacred for the Shakwetmet Nahan Silks, but I'm actually, along with Judy, up in the Yukon. We're here to speak and spend time at an educators conference here. And today, so we are on the Champagne and Ashiaik First Nations place, and otherwise colonially known as Haines Junction. And today, my land acknowledgement is that we're wearing orange shirts because today the school, we visited a local school here where they celebrated their day of the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation today instead of on the September 30th. And we were invited by Gashkwok, who I actually met at the Banff conference, the National Outdoor Learning Conference last May, showed us around, showed us amazing land-based work she's doing with her students. And my land acknowledgement today is to speak the language of the place because this was given to us today. We had the Dakwakada dancers dance, drum, we danced with them in circle. And Gashkwak had one of her elders, Kala, Lorraine Allen, translate truth and reconciliation into Southern Shoshone. And it means they speak truly, and all together we each will treat one another in a good way. And I'll do my best to pronounce it. We practiced it, and we'll see how it goes. But and I wanted to share that because I thought it was such a beautiful thing for that language to be spoken in a special place, and it is an honor to be here. The land is beautiful and so rich. Again, September 30th is coming up. There's a link going in the chat. We've got together some Canadian focused resources for you if you'd like to read them. October 14th is National Indigenous Peoples Day, and so there's some amazing resources there that are more USA specific, but also relevant for anyone engaging. As you know, if you haven't participated, we are doing a year-long learning, which is called 4 Seasons of Indigenous Learning, and it's in its 3rd season. And we have a monthly gathering in addition to an online learning piece where you can progress through virtual knowledge systems and into spaces of learning over preceding years. And we're very, very proud of that. And there's incredible speakers coming up starting in October. We had Monique Ray Smith speak last week, and just letting you know that her book, Speaking Our Truth, The Journey of Reconciliation, is now available and is a beautiful way to speak with children about reconciliation in addition to the resources you're getting about that. And if that's just not enough, if you just think I need more learning, I just haven't had enough, I'm just desperate for more, we have 4-part online learning courses like Naturally Inclusive for all abilities and Indigenous language courses hosted by beautiful language speakers, and we have a Cree language course and a Michif language course coming up. And if you really want to dive into outdoor learning more, we have a 30-hour self-paced certification program, and there's a link where you can get more information. Julie, I posted this picture that I took of you yesterday for our Welcoming Rainbow.
Amazing. Hi, everybody. It's so wonderful to be joining you all today. As Jade mentioned, we're both up in the Yukon, so I'm joining you today from Champagne and Asiac First Nation land, and it is just absolutely beautiful. We had such a meaningful and powerful day today. And yeah, just so honored and happy to be up here. So thankful. And a rainbow did greet us both on the plane trip into Whitehorse and when we arrived here. But yes, I'd love to tell you about Take Me Outside Day. It's coming up on October 23rd. So that's a day that we support educators and really encourage educators and learners across Turtle Island to get outside and connect with the land. We're actually offering a full week of free virtual workshops, so field trips with your learners, professional learning opportunities, and resources as well. So Jade will share the link in the chat that you can register and receive all that information, but we really, really hope you'll join us. And then a really quick shout out, I just wanted to let you know that our student video contest is closing soon on October 4th. And it's a really great opportunity with a really great prize. So you might want to check that out as well. But I really hope that you can all join us for Take Me Outside Day this year. And thanks so much.
Thank you, Julie. It's a pleasure working with you. And Julie's behind the scenes, beeping and collecting. And if you do get stuck or have any questions, please type them in the chat. Julie's there to take them all in and share questions into our script, or to maybe pose later if we have enough time, or to help you if you have tech problems. But okay, we're going to try this. Last week, the polls were just doing all their thing. I'm going to launch this, and hopefully you'll see a poll come up on your screen. There's 2, so you scroll top to bottom. So I'm asking, what kind of educator are you? And then below is where you're joining us from, because for us it's fascinating to see that the spread of these workshops has grown from our local in the Columbia Basin region, across Turtle Island, and even in international. If you're in the rest of the world, please share in the chat where you're joining us from, because you're only allowed 10 options in the boxes and things. Anywho, we've got 999 people here, everyone. There are maybe 1,000 might come if one more person joins us at some point. But 1,000 of you are here. It might take a little while to do this, so I'm just going to close the poll in, say, 5 seconds or so. Lots of hellos in the chat. That's so lovely. 3, 2, 1. Okay, I'm going to end the poll and just we'll get a rough idea of who's here. So I'm going to share those results with you. So look, we've got every kind of educator that we could possibly think of represented. Lots of younger educators, K to 3, and then people from, oh my goodness, we've got someone from every part of Turtle Island and the rest of the world, bits of it. I'm sorry, I know it was fast. I apologise, but I want to get to the really great guests. So I'm going to keep moving. Thank you so much for sharing if you did that. And it's going. Very briefly, this work, Eileen was saying before we came live, like how big the reach is getting and how many people are joining us, right? And it's because we have lots of partners that are international, that are Canadian, that are below the 49th parallel in US, who are doing amazing work of sharing this in their communities and building resources and even funding and opportunities. So please have a look at our partner page. We hope you will find someone that can support you in your work, in addition to being here with us. We are grateful for each and every one of you. thank you so much for caring about truth and reconciliation, for showing up in this space, whether it's live or watching the recording. It is very central work, and we're so grateful to be here with you doing it. And that's what we're here to do. Kicking us off. Oh, hey, we're on time-ish. Okay, kicking us off is the fantastic Willie Poll. Willie is a proud Métis person from, I can't do it every time I do it, Sault Ste. Marie. Sault Ste. Marie. Yes. Okay. Practice. Ontario, who spent the last 10 years working, apologies for the typos, that's all me, by the way, who spent the last 10 years working in Indigenous education. She's passionate about supporting Indigenous youth to reach their dreams and reclaim their power. Together We Drum, Our Hearts Beat as One. If you haven't read it, it's a fabulous book. It is so rhythmic and heart-filling. It's her first book. Willie presented for us before for Truth and Reconciliation adult training as part of our Every Child Matters. She works with the Moose High campaign, and we are just incredibly grateful that you're here with us, Willie. I'm going to pass the floor to you. Oh, before you speak, I'm sorry. Basket, brain, engage heart and spirit. It's been a very, very full day of learning and holding, and I want to give that back. It's really nice to see you again. It's been, feels like what's too long, and having met you through the Moose High campaign, and then now I think through the last two conferences 1,000 people have had Moose Hide pins, and they're now around my community, and I spot people wearing them, and it becomes this moment, of course, a conversation starter. But for that, up to now, and for this moment, I offer you tobacco that's grown ceremoniously. It's in my left hand, it's in my heart. Thank you so much for all you do, and I offer this with the best of intentions for gratitude for the sharings and offerings of knowledge you'll share with us today.
Thank you, Miigwech. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me. This is really exciting. I always hate when I hear how many people are on the call. It like just really kicks in the nerves. But lovely to have all of you. Anibojo Indigenous Willie. I'm Willie. I'm from Sault Ste. Marie. But I've been living all over Turtle Island for the last 10 years, teaching mostly in different First Nations in the Yukon, Northwest Territories, Northern British Columbia, Central British Columbia, and I'm actually now based on Mi'kmaq territory in Prince Edward Island, and I saw someone in the chat also in PEI. Love that. Yeah, love being here on Abaguet as a guest. It is a beautiful place. So my first book, Together We Drum, Our Hearts Beat as One, is my heart book. I'll tell you a little bit about what it is about. So it follows a young girl who goes on an adventure, and she comes across this monster named Hate, and it represents kind of a lot of the darkness that is along her path. And she meets some of her matriarch ancestors, and those ancestors kind of help her through, and they pave a new path for her, and she's able to connect with them and connect to her culture to sort of overcome this monster. And I wrote this story after the first time I drove the Highway of Tears. So for those who don't know, the Highway of Tears is an area in northern British Columbia with a high concentration of missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people. And in Canada, at least, and many places in the States, Indigenous people are 12 times more likely to go missing or be murdered than their non-Indigenous counterparts. And so I had driven that highway, and I had just got to BC. I didn't know that I was on that highway. And with me was one of my students who was a 16-year-old visibly Indigenous young woman. And we're driving and we're passing sign after sign of missing people, some as young as 10 years old, and just their faces on billboards for what felt like hours. Well, it was hours. And I just remember looking at her and saying, "Is this the Highway of Tears?" And she just said, "Yeah." And it was so nonchalant, and she just, it was so normal. And I felt so sick, and I'd never ever had a feeling like that before, especially as a white passing Indigenous person, as a white Indigenous person. I'm at a much lower risk. And I remember feeling quite sick. And I had worked in other communities where there had been missing matriarchs. And I'd seen it impact even the youngest of children who had a missing mom or a missing auntie, or a missing cousin. And so these Indigenous kids have to have this reality in their life because when a matriarch is missing from a community, especially a small community of just maybe a couple hundred people, there's a huge impact. It's often our matriarchs who pass down culture and language and medicines, and recipes, and it's who we go to when we're feeling sick or when we're feeling sad. It's my grandma, it's my aunt, it's my mom. And so I remember coming back from that trip and writing this poem, and I didn't really think anything of it. And I read it a couple times and I started to really fall in love with it. And I thought this would be a really good children's book. And so I wrote it in this really gentle way. And there's a lot of red dress imagery within it. And sometimes I read it to adults. And often when they understand it, they're in tears. And often kids, that part kind of is lost on kids. And what they see is this beautiful story of matriarchs and of power and of the power of our people and the power of culture and the power of connection and the power of the land. And within the story, there's all these beautiful women's medicines. And so it was illustrated by Chief Ladybird, who I was a big fan of before we decided to do the book together. And so it has these Anishinaabe woodland floral artwork kind of within it. And she added so much of her knowledge and her power. And she's very passionate about matriarchies and sort of matriarchy styles of government as well. And so it's really beautiful how she included all of this women's medicines and berries. And yeah, so I've seen so many things done with the story. I was a land-based educator previously. I used to build curriculums that took apart sort of Western colonial provincial curriculums and sort of indigenized them and brought them back to the land. And I did that in partnership with a bunch of elders and knowledge keepers and different organizations. And so I've seen a lot of really great land-based things go with the book. Everything from food sovereignty to looking at the types of food within the story that she finds along the trail, to looking at kind of the animals within the story. There's a lot of different pieces that kind of go with land-based. And I've seen a lot of high school and older youth talk a lot about violence towards the land and how it's connected to violence towards women. And I think that's probably my favorite thing to see come of the story is that connection and listening to different speakers speak about that. I recently saw a quote that said, if it was called father nature instead of mother nature, we might be less extractive to the earth. And there's a lot of really great speakers. Larissa Crawford, who's a great Indigenous environmentalist, to speak on topics like that. So there's been a lot of resources created. There's a company called Twinkle who did resource creation for it that are completely free. You just have to register for an account. It was mentioned that I work for the Moosehead campaign. I'm their director of education. The campaign's mission is to end gender-based violence. It's an Indigenous-led and Indigenous-created campaign, and our symbol are these Moosehead pins, which are also free to order. There's resources that go with the book with the Moosehead campaign as well. There's even a reading, so you can listen to me read the story for free, and Chief Ladybird is also in that video, and she talks about matriarchs and brings in some of her knowledge as well within that video. So yeah, there's lots of great resources and lots of great things happening with the story. It's my heart book. My future books are also mostly environmental based, a little bit different. I have a book coming out about the fish farms in British Columbia and a book about food sovereignty coming out in the spring. So lots of really cool things happening. But yeah, it's my heart book.
Thank you so much, Marcy, Joe, Willie. It is a beautiful book, and thank you so much for sharing all those different resources. And it's so lovely to see how all of those things intertwine for reconciliation, right? Reconciliation with the land, with people, with culture. It's just your work is incredible and so multifaceted. So thank you so much for coming today to share that.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, next up in our stream, flowing downstream into our next resource. Joining us is Eileen Delehanty Pearkes, who's a non-Indigenous ally and author of Heart of the River, which is a book that speaks from the perspective of the Columbia River, or in Tzotzil, Sinhuitpufa, the Swift River, and it explores the intersection of landscape history and human imagination, which she does through different books. There's another book called Geography of Memory, which is really about the history. Born in the US and educated incredibly well, and has lived around and does incredible work. And the last time I saw you, Eileen, you were in person on stage with my older Shelley Boyd, the next woman, and her 3 nieces.
Yes.
Reading this book in
Yes.
Tzotzil.
In the Salish language. Yeah.
In the interior Salish language. And it's been redesigned, your book, recently. I'm going to just add this so that I can see myself while we speak and before I pass it over. There
Here
it is.
Here it is in hardcover.
Delightful.
It's been a long journey.
But the work that you've done, particularly where I live, and the relationships that you hold, have paved the way for reconciliation in my own life and journey. And I'm inspired by what you've done and the spaces that you've cultivated very, very much. And so I have a hand-woven gift here for you, which is my version of blanket giving that you'll see. And with each stitch is a intention of reciprocity and thanks for everything you do. So I'll pop this in the post right after.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for including me. And before I go a moment further, I need to say that I am calling in from Tongva traditional territory, which is in Topanga, California, at the edge of the great, crazy Los Angeles basin. I'm getting to know the Indigenous people in this region, many of whom have no status whatsoever. And it's a great journey. A lot of my work, as Jade referenced, has been in close relationship with the Sinixt people. I'm not sure quite how to explain the bond I have with them as a friend, as well as somebody who works closely with them to help their culture rise. It's a great honor and privilege to be in partnership. And I have a wish and a hope that one day these kinds of ally partnerships won't even need names, because everyone will be in partnership together. But I have been a little bit their name for me is, I can't say the word, she who stamps down the snow, meaning that I prepare a deep snowfall by stamping at the front of the line to make the walk that comes for other people after a little easier. It has not been an easy road, but it has been a very satisfying and privileged one. So I want to talk just a little bit about the history of this story and how it came to be. 21 years ago, I received a phone call one night from someone who ran a storytelling festival, an out loud, almost like a traditional storytelling festival where people spoke their tales in what is largely understood today as the oral tradition of Indigenous people, although they weren't calling it that. The Sinixt who I write about and work with were still extinct in Canada at the time. So I was contacted and asked if I would write not a story exactly about the Sinixt, but a story about the land. The Storytelling Festival had been too focused on settler history, and they wanted a story where the land could speak. I said, no problem. And then I tried to figure out what I was going to say. And luckily, the river itself woke me up at 3:30 in the morning, close to dawn one day. And I wrote this story in one sitting. Really, writers are just holding the pen. The story is coming from something much bigger than who we are. And that was certainly my experience. really what the book has turned into is a call for empathy. And I have been very influenced the rest of my writing career, as it is still ongoing, by the power of empathy and its ability to reconnect us, not just with Indigenous people, but with the land itself, which is the cornerstone of their lives, is the land under their feet. My experience working with them has taught me how to use my heart first and foremost, but also how to make sure my feet are firmly on the ground. I have great respect for the groundedness of the Indigenous cultures. And so my job in this book was to imagine myself to be the Columbia River. And that's what the book does. I won't tell you what happens in the book. You can order it through the Outdoor Learning Store or on Amazon, and you can find it for yourself. But I will tell you just momentarily about one very exhausting week that I had several years ago, where I read this book out loud to over 1,000 school children. And it was during that time when the Indigenous education coordinator approached me and asked me, would I do this, that I learned a lot about the power of this book to work with the natural imagination and empathy of children under the age of 10. And I saw firsthand, as I read the book and had discussions with the children, how they came alive to the river and its challenges. And this is a heavily dammed river. It's an international water basin, the fourth largest river in North America. And it has experienced a tremendous amount of harm. So the river experiences that harm in the story in a way that teaches the children to recognize, or anyone who reads it, to recognize that when we manhandle natural systems and when we forget their heart, we automatically create suffering and sadness for those natural resources or for those beings, the fish or the bears or whomever. And so the children were hearing this story over and over, and often I would say something about the dams or about the salmon wanting to come back. And we would have these conversations in a very simple way. And one day a little girl raised her hand to ask a question, and I said yes. And she said, well, do you think we could just put a teeny tiny hole in those dams and then the fish could slip through that little hole? And I said, would that it could be that simple, but I was very charmed by this child's understanding of the need to compromise, the need to create an opening in these concrete fences so that the fish could slip through. And it's one of those out of the mouths of babes moments for sure. I'm just so grateful to have had the opportunity to see this book in action in the school system. And before I finish, I'll just say that really, for me, the most important thing we can do in respecting indigeneity and the natural world is to remove the disconnections, to reconnect. And in my own life as a dual citizen, living on both sides of the medicine line, I can say that that international boundary and the terminology that separates one side from another is one of the impositions. We need to break down those barriers and foster deep connection with the land, and therefore it will naturally occur that we will connect in an authentic way with the Indigenous people and help to heal this land that we live on. So I'm looking forward to the moment when the heart of a river comes out in the Intselk'cheen language of the land where it was written. My publisher is a wonderful person and has already said, how many copies do you want? So I'm just waiting for the Intselk'cheen speaking school to have the time and energy to help make that happen by sending the text material. It's been a great project to work on over the last 20 years, and thank you for having me here to talk. Over to you, Jade.
Oh, Eileen. That's beautiful, and having heard that story read in that language and in front of 250 people, 350 people, and not a dry eye in the house, it was like.
And those children had so much dignity and so much peace in there. They weren't nervous, or at least they didn't seem to be. They certainly enjoyed their pancake breakfast after that was over, though.
No doubt.
They got taken out for
Incredible.
pancakes.
Absolutely brilliant. They worked so hard. Thank you, Eileen, for everything you do and for your beautiful words, as always.
Good. All right. Thank you.
Okay, next up to share with us are two friends who I'm getting to know that are new, and Rachel van der Veen, a grandchild of Dutch settlers who moved to the Northwest Territories in 2007 to volunteer at the De Gaas School. Is a teacher and spent years advocating about reading and outdoors. And you're an educator at an organisation called Bushkids. And joining today as well is Michelle Cruchko, who's raised in the beautiful community of the Sati region called Tulita. Mother, auntie, educator, who works in early learning and childcare. And who found her passion for teaching on the land from her grandparents and family from the north. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here today. And I'm going to just change the screens up a little bit. Just takes a little minute when we're working with this many fantastic humans to make sure everybody's in the spot. I'm hoping that Michelle's here with us. I know that she was having a little bit of tech problems earlier. But I'll start with you, Rachel. Thank you so much for joining and for creating an educator's resource, a free educator's resource to help people really engage with your book, The Land Outside My Window. That's going to be in the chat. It's going to be in your follow-up email. We're actually going to post it next to the resource online so that anybody who sees that book sees how they can integrate it into their learning. So that is a gift. I'll have a small handmade gift for you as well. You know, it's a new thing to me. I was told that I wasn't arty, and then I'm learning to crochet, and so it may have imperfect edges, but it is made with the perfect amount of love, which is everything that I've got. So I offer this gift to you for your sharing today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's amazing to be here with all these other amazing authors. Commando Josie, Guy Rachel van der Veen, Eetson, Michelle Cruchot, Guy Sambake Gatson Ate. So I just introduced us in Quichon, which is the local language, which is the language of the land that we work on. It's one of the local languages. Willaday is also another one. We are located on the traditional lands of the Yellowknife Dene First Nations, the North Slave Métis, and many other nations who have lived here since time immemorial.
Michelle, sorry, I'm just going to interrupt you because Michelle, you're here. Are you good? Your screen works. Okay. Before you continue, I do have a tobacco offering for you as well, which I would love to give before you speak, because you're a new friend. Rachel's introduced us, and we're so grateful that you're here sharing your knowledge with us. So I just wanted to offer this before you continue on, and I can disappear.
Merci, Joan. Merci to Rachel.
Merci. So yeah, both Michelle and I work at Bushkids, and over the past 2 years, we've been learning Quichon. At Bushkids, we incorporate these languages into our days as much as possible because we know how interconnected they are to the land and the cultures of the peoples who live here. The Land Outside My Window was written as my final assignment to the Forest and Nature School practitioner course, which I took in 2018. And I've tried to really reflect the diligent work of many people across the NWT who envisioned on the land learning as an opportunity for everyone in this book. The idea for the book went back to when I was working in a preschool in Yellowknife or Sumbakay and recognized a real hesitancy in non-Indigenous teachers to teach information about other Indigenous cultures. And I had kind of recognized this because many years ago I had experienced similar feelings. So the book works not only to address and ask some of the very difficult questions that our country is just starting to work on, but it also works to celebrate the land and the languages and the cultures here. At Bushkids, we really believe that the land is our teacher. And we're constantly working towards reciprocity with the land through playing with the kids, through curiosity, through sharing knowledge and telling stories, eating together, laughter, songs and stewardship. And as we do all of this, the land heals and cares for us. Today we had talked about, what we were noticing about the land. And soon after, one of the students, they were all digging in the dirt. It was a very rainy day today. And she turned to me, and I think she's about 10, and she said to me, we really, we are playing on the land and we are using the land. And that's why we really need to thank the land. And so a lot of the moments that I have at Bushkids, that's where this story has come from. And some of the questions that the child poses in the story, they are questions that, I think that my kids have or will have as they get older, and the kids that I work with will have. And so, yeah, Michelle now is just going to talk a little bit about one of our other principles at Bushkids, which is ethical space. So I'll let my wonderful coworker speak now.
Let's see. Michelle Krupko, CA. My name is Michelle Krupko. I'm from Toledo, the Sachi region, a population of 600 people. That's Treaty 11 territory. I'm learning to speak Clicho. I speak North Slavey. Being away from my community has been a barrier, I guess, with learning language. We have 11 different languages here in the Northwest Territories. So yeah, with ethical space, that's one of our principles at Bushkids is ethical space. And the partnership with that was to develop a program that is balanced between not having someone higher than you and somebody lower. You have to be equal the whole time. That bringing in other people, different cultures, different foods, and different aspects of life, and you're learning about it. Our age range right now is from 5 to 11. We have students come out, but we teach abroad of daycare all the way up to as adults, any other educators that want to come and learn to teach their kids. That's the most important thing, right? We want to spread that out. So some of the things the kids wrote was ethical space in Bushkids. And so we have wall tents. So wall tents provide ethical space for our students, our elders, and our animals that we come and work on. We deal with hides. We just finished a hide. And the hide itself, as being an animal, came to our site. And we had over 100 people working on that hide. And so that is the meaning of ethical space, bringing something and building community on it. It's the same as if you think about mitten strings. If you think about somebody making mitten strings, you're weaving, right? And learning on the land, you're always spiraling When you think of curriculum's always set base, but when you're on the land, you could bring curriculum in, but you have to always have that spiraling because you'll always come back to it. My passion growing up on the land was from my grandparents, being in a small community. Every March break, 2 weeks off school, I had to get sent out to go on the land to be with my grandma and help her. And growing up older, I never knew what that really meant until today. I'm an educator. I'm teaching ethical space. I'm learning about it, being an Indigenous woman myself, and having others come into that space and having them welcomed and wanting to learn. That's the most value in being an educator, is knowing that they're walking away with something and you're walking away with something. So some of the things would be chopping wood. Today, our students, all they wanted to do was chop wood. And that was their first day at site. And so that's what they did. They chopped wood. That's what they wanted to learn. So that's what we'll teach them. And language, our students speak Willade, Clicho, and they like to say Homodohozi, that means good morning. And that's really good to hear when you hear students talking in their language, even if it's just a word. You know that it's growing. One of the other things is sit spots. We love to do sit spots. That means you're taking a break. You're able to focus and listen. This morning we had a family of eagles on the lake. And right away, I took that opportunity to show that ethical space, that there's animals here that use the space because this is their home too. We're just using it. We've got to take care of it for them. And so we pulled out the binoculars so they can actually see what was making that noise. And then we went in the meaning what the eagle represents. And so now they'll know that they have visitors coming every morning if they'll see until winter comes. And there's a baby there. So some of the questions were like, are they mating? And so we had to share that, well, they have a baby there already. So they already mated. So now they're training their baby, where we're teaching you guys, where you're learning, the baby's learning. So that's where your ethical space comes in, is knowing that you're always balanced. And if your kids have a thought, go with that thought. Always just try to say, you may not know. Educators may not know all the time. And having a holistic approach is really important because you're able to give them the safe space. Today we had traditional food. We had fish, bannock, and they got to try 2 different types of fish. And then they made forts this morning, and the students went into their forts to eat their lunch. You want your students to be able to equip to know that they're able to walk away with something. And yeah, ethical space is very important to have. You're able to see things differently. Your teaching gets totally different because you're more open. You're more open to learning about yourself. I always say it's important to know you can't teach unless you take care of yourself. So that is the one thing. So you just need to sit outside with your kids for a couple minutes. Then we're just going to sit here, play with this stick. Let's see what the stick could show us. And yeah, we have a lot of things that we like to do with ethical space, and that helps our students being able to figure out what they want to do, what they're interested in, and listen to themselves. One of the things Rachel was sharing about her book with the story Digging in the Mud, she was also brought up about being by the water today. We were by the water today. And so one of the things in Rachel's book says, how can we give back to the land as we explore? And so that was one of the things they were thinking about. Well, here I'm going to plant a new tree today. It was a dead tree, but he's trying to plant it, and he did. And so that's right. You want that. You want to watch them and the students. What does the land offer you as you play and learn here? So the students noticed 2 other kids were away from the group by the lake. And they said, how come those kids are over there? I said, those kids are the older kids. I said, they're going to one day have to teach you guys. So I'm going to watch them because I'm letting them build their independence. because I'm gonna have to rely on them one day if they're out here. And they were like, oh, okay, so when we're older, we could kind of spread out a little bit. I said, as long as you know to always watch back. So that was something that we were sitting there and they were really like worried about how come the two kids are leaving. I said, they can see me, I can see them. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with how it intertwines with Rachel's book. There's a lot of that little pebble thinking. There's always like a pebble dropped in your path in life. And it could be little learning here and there. So yeah, I see Cho. Yeah, that means thank you. I could talk all the time.
Thank you, Marcy, Choji, both. Love the feeling of unity that just comes out of that, of feeling like how welcoming and open that heart and learning is, and how lucky the kids are to get to learn with you two every day. And thank you for sharing with us in this moment and beyond. And people are like, pebbles, spiral learning, ethical space, new words. So we might have you back to go on a little bit more about this at some point. I know it's only 1.1 thousand people here, okay? So we're going to have to dive in, a little bit later. Thank you for being here. We're going to keep on flowing. Appreciate you both. Okay, friends, it's now, I'm going to share, Ariana. I know that your Wi-Fi is having a moment, so I'm hoping that you'll come here with us. But Ariana Roundpoint is a Mohawk author from Accra Sasne, and she's the co-author along with two other beautiful Indigenous people and a beautiful Indigenous illustrator of Sealer in the Land. I think my copy of this is so battered. It's seen so many children. It's been on so many adventures with the land. It's changed the way I teach, as a sort of person who taught science and geology. It's changed the way that I teach about rocks, from the stories of rock and the stories that he shares in this book particularly. But as an educator, philosopher, and sort of guide, help school boards deepen their understanding of culture and art from an Indigenous perspective. And you're a great advocate for Indigenous youth voices. You're working on new books and things. You've been a powerful public speaker since I've known you in lots of different places with different kids and adults alike. I'm very, very glad that you are here. And I'm going to stop sharing. And just before I let you or ask you to move on, I'm just going to get all my screens ready. Okay, and I'm so glad to see you again. It's always just the greatest honor. And every time I read your book, every time you share with us, it's something a little bit different. There's a little nugget of joy and wisdom that comes into my brain and my soul. And being in these spaces with you is a great honor. So thank you for your knowledge and thank you for being here to share again. I could give for you.
It's first off, I'd like to start with the Nyawagoa. It's truly an honor to be here and to actually be present in such a vital, proactive step forward. And before I'd like to begin, I'd like to say Nyawagoa to everybody that is giving their time and their energy into all of our passions, all of our pieces of our soul that we put into these pieces of work, whether it's writing, whether it's art, whether it's basket making, storytelling, painting, drawing. These are all parts of ourselves and parts of our stories that we bear to each and every one of you. And we give it to you willingly, and we give it to you with such a passion that we hope you carry that torch. And I'd like to put out a really, really big Nyawagoa. So, Seg was a wakwego, Wandanoliungets, Wagatuhuni. I come from Akwesasne. It's a Mohawk reservation, Mohawk territory bordering Canada and the United States. And I live in the Ontario portion. It's a little bit of a history lesson, but I won't get into that right now. I'm here to share Sela and the land and the story of this little girl and how she reflects not just one, two, but three different women and the choices that we make every day with the freedom we have and the resources at our disposal, but also the freedom that we have to share a passion. And the passion that we have it's reflected in Sela's story. So to begin, I will share 2 or 3 snippets of the story, and each one holds different significance that I can get into. So the first one being, Sela runs into a rock. Walking east, Sela decided to take a little rest and sat on a large rock. The rock sensed the magnitude of history Sela had within her and her strength to carry it everywhere she goes. Young child, I sense a long line of history within you, given by your ancestors. You must honor it by making sure to carry it with pride wherever you go. Sela heard these words, but could not tell where they were coming from. It sounded like it was deep and rumbling around her. It sounded so strong and wise, it almost frightened her. The rock sensed her fear and reassured her not to be afraid. Do not worry, young one. It is I, the rock, as you call me, speaking to you. Then Sela asked, why is it important to carry my history with me? As a rock, I've lived for millions of years, and throughout those long years, I have had the strength of carrying knowledge with me from many people and their ancestors. I carry knowledge that others may not see as well, like the history of the animals, plants, and the shaping of the land. Sela was curious as to how old the rock may be. How long have you been around? The rock answered, it is not just how long I have been around that is significant. It is how much knowledge and experience I have gathered and carried that is important. That is what makes up who I am, just like you. You have the knowledge and history of your ancestors to carry, as well as the knowledge you will learn throughout your short life. This knowledge is what you need to pass down to future generations in order to strengthen your culture. From the rock's encouraging words, Sela felt ready to continue her journey once more. She thanked the rock and went on her way. That part, so it was a co-authored project, and the other author, her name is Shelby, and she is from Arviat Nunavut, and she incorporated that as a way of showing how immortal at least to me, what it reflects when I read, it shows the immortality of our resilience and our fight and what our history truly means for us and what that does for us. And writing this book, I was 16, and the project coming before me was one that I had picked up willingly. It was a torch that I was willing to bear, as it fell right in line with a passion to storytell and to
Oh no, I think we've lost Antonella for a minute. Let me see if we can get her back.
Can everybody hear me?
Hi, we have you back, but we
Yeah,
missed
did it
you.
freeze?
Yeah, you just said it's a story to tell, and then
So it's a story to tell our connection to the land and why climate change, and the whole reason for it was for climate change. It was to give us our voice, because we are the Ungwehue, the original people of the land. We inhabit this land and we are caretakers of the earth. That is what our sole responsibility was and continues to be to this day. And as educators now, the responsibility that you all hold is to hear, to listen to what this new generation has, because in no way are we able to grow up and hit a certain age and say, oh yeah, I know everything I need to know. I've learned it. This is how I've learned it. And this is how it will continue to be for me. I mean, well, yeah, Sela gives that little girl a voice, gives the child in a classroom a voice to say, yes, I stack the wood in the autumn or in the summer. I go out and I pick the medicines with my grandfather. I'm there with my grandparents in the garden. I'm there with my mom in the kitchen canning. I'm there to learn about the plants and the animals that are around us in order to see what we call her Agetnistahan Uhunja, our Mother Earth. And she provides us with everything that we could ever need, everything to sustain the lives that we were meant to live, a present life, and a life that we know is filled with the continual learning from the stories that we share, the stories that are told to us from grandmother to mother to daughter to sister to the next 7 generations. I truly believe that now we are in the 7th generation that we speak of and have been speaking of for generations. And sorry, I have a cat. We continuously say that we are planning for the next 7 generations. Well, instead of saying that we are planning, why not be the change today? Why not become that 7th generation now and uphold the responsibility that we have to the people, to the earth, to our families, to the animals, to the waters and the skies and our cosmos, from the ground beneath our feet right up to the stars above our heads. We have that responsibility to take care and to share that knowledge and to share those teachings and to share everything that has been passed down to us. With Sela and the land, it's been presented from elementary school all the way through to grade 12 to teacher conferences. And each time the story is told, each time it's shared, there's something different to be found. There's something different to question and to take from it. And if there's another passage that I could read, it would be the next one. And I'll try to make it as quick as possible. So Sela walked through the forest, looking at all the plants and critters running back and forth across the dirt path. As she wandered through, she came across a maple tree that stood tall and strong above the other trees. The maple tree spoke to Sela in a soft voice. "What brings you to such an old tree like me, little one?" Sela looked up and answered, "I was just wandering around thinking, wait, why can't I see you? I am the great maple tree and need no face to speak, no mouth to eat, no eyes to see, and no ears to listen. When you speak, I can understand you by the way you feel. Your roots speak to me." "My roots? I don't have any roots. I'm a person, not a tree," Sela said. "Oh, but you do have roots, little one. Your roots are what connect you to your ancestors of your home. Your roots are what keep you strong and allow you to stand tall." With your roots, you can hold on tight to your family, culture, and the land you wander now. You came from the land, little one, so you have roots just as I do that are in your blood and traditions. You may not see yours as you see mine, but they are there and just as deep. Sela sat quietly and thought about her grandmother, about her language and teachings as she has learned. Why haven't you been knocked down, though? You're old. The deep laugh of the tree sent the leaves shaking. The maple answered, I may be old, but my work on this earth is not done, just as yours is just beginning. Walk now, little human. Enjoy my forest and see who else speaks to you. Listen, not just with your ears, but with your roots as well. That part is one of the leading parts that I end up, it was the half of the book that I wrote for the maple tree, and Shelby wrote the part about the rock. And my part in writing about the maple tree was to show that there's so much that we have that will feed us and that will grow into. And the students that you care for, and the minds that you water, and the seeds that you plant, those are the trees that are going to stand tall one day. And what we do in shaping them, the responsibility that we have as educators, whether or not we're in a classroom, we're sitting behind a desk, or we're having a conversation in a coffee shop, or even on the street, that responsibility we have to not just hear what the individual has to say, but to truly listen with everything that we have inside of us, to understand where they're coming from, and to understand that that story holds a certain and a perfect significance for that moment. If there's anything that I could share and that you do take away from today, it's that you hear what we are saying, you hear our cries, and you hear our words, because though that is the power of our people. We are an oral people, a traditional people of storytelling, and being a matriarchal society as well, following our mothers and having our bloodlines secured by our mothers. We hold our futures within us. We hold our futures in our voice. And I think it's so, so important that we acknowledge and that we uplift what those voices are in your classrooms, that we understand that each of those voices one day will be heard across all of Turtle Island, again, all across her. And Sela and the land, to me, became a catalyst to amplify our voices, not just about climate change, but of the humble and the peaceful peoples that we are, and what was tried and tried again to exterminate and to assimilate. And the tree did not bow. And I apologize if I'm going over. It is truly, I believe it was mentioned time and time again by the other artists, but this is a passion, and you cannot put a time frame on the speech of our souls. And that is what we put into all of our works and all of our writings and creations. This is what we give to the world, the sacrifices of our hearts, whether it's a painful story to tell or it's a heartfelt one. We have that responsibility to share with you what it was to live and what it is to live now, and what we have to share with you. And it comes at the simple price of your time. And I truly, truly thank everyone for that. I'm not sure if there were any questions, but I know, I believe another said it earlier, I could keep talking. Yeah, I could keep talking about it, but I would like to finish off with just each and every one of you here is that proactive step for us to be able to live in a world that we are able to walk into a classroom and we truly are acknowledged, and we are celebrated just as much as the next person to walk in is celebrated. For we have these gifts to give unto one another, and all we need to do is listen. So Nyawakoa, and carry that peace of mind with all of you.
That's so beautiful. Thank you, Ariana. Yeah, people are like 2 hours. We need 2 hours, and that's right. And while I was arranging this, it was like, oh, you know, it's a lot of folks for 60 minutes, but I couldn't possibly not have all of these amazing resources here in this space. Your stories are so powerful, and I do feel every time I read them, I feel the celebration of that knowledge and reconciliation in my heart. So thank you so much for everything you've done. We are already 6 minutes over, so I am going to scooch on down into over to the east, even further east. But I'm so grateful that you were here with us again, and I can't wait to see you on the next time.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. All right. Thank you for staying with us, everyone. And I recognize and I feel that what needs to be said will be said, and sometimes time just we just flow with it. And if you do have to leave, of course, this is recorded, so you will get to watch it back at a moment. So Louise, I'm not sure if Elder Albert has made it. Has he made it on his travels?
No,
No.
I texted him. I just sent a note to his daughter to say, has he arrived from Halifax? She says, I'm not sure. I'm going to go check. So
we'll commence, and
we
then
will
we can
commence,
see.
and we will manifest. All you 1,000 people manifest. So Elder Albert Martin, my name's Louise. Oh, did you introduce? Sorry, did you introduce?
I didn't, but you
didn't. Go ahead.
I mean,
go ahead.
Well, I mean, I have gifts first. Of course, I have tobacco offering for Elder, and actually, he was going to open for a prayer with us. But being the incredible knowledge sharer that he is always out and about, and I've been lucky enough to meet him, you know, and have you both share in person twice now, and multiple times in these virtual spaces, and each time it is, an enormous presence of joy. And as a fluent speaker and the creator of Edawakdamunk, Two-Eyed Seeing, which honours both Indigenous and non-Indigenous knowledges, Elder and now Dr. Albert D. Marshall is an incredible bit more speaker and knowledge keeper. He hopefully might join us, we'll see. But Louise, I have a little gift for you, little handcrafted. I first met you in 2022, I believe, at this Classrooms to Communities conference, and I thought you were your sister, who's a twin, who lives where I live. And you were saying that people were confused because they'd wave at you in the street and I thought it was you and it wasn't. And as an educator, you have given me an enormous amount. And not only you're a professor and a researcher, but you are a great communicator of your knowledge in a way that is, I have felt in my heart with butterfly puppets on my fingers and in the faces of tiny kids as well. And so I'll pass it over to you, and thank you for being here very, very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, Elder Albert was supposed to be here with me. He was at a fisheries and salmon, speaking at a fisheries and salmon meeting today in Halifax, and is actually coming to Toronto tomorrow. So he's getting up at I think at 2 o'clock to go to the airport to be with us tomorrow. So we'll see. Maybe he'll pop in for a minute. There is another link. I guess you could put that in the chat, Jade or Duncan, that we did an hour-long webinar, I believe, last May. So I'm just going to share my screen. Oops. And let me know what you can see. Yeah, is it full screen?
It is. That's perfect.
Perfect. So there's Elder Albert and I and our trusty frog that goes everywhere with us. And I'm so delighted. Anik Press reached out to us in 2021 asking if we would be interested in co-writing a book initially a board book for toddlers. This is for ages 4 to 7 because we really wanted to have more of the words. But really we use it with all ages, from infant all the way up to adult. And we're so delighted that Emily Kawageshig, she's from Saugeen First Nation, is the illustrator. We had a chance to work with her, to meet her online, and to see some of the process and then to weigh in with the art directors. And that's not always the case with the illustrators, but in this case it was. You can follow her on Instagram. Anik Press, of course, is the publisher. And we're also so delighted that there will be a forthcoming dual language version in Mi'kmaq and English. And there's the title. And of course, I was relying on Albert to help me with the pronunciation. So I won't pronounce it right now. I'm still learning it because the book's just been translated. And so we're really delighted because it is the UN Decade of Indigenous Languages, in particular 2022 to 2032. And so to have as many resources as possible in the languages, and particularly for the Atlantic provinces that would be using and are doing language revitalization and language immersion. And I see there's lots of people from those communities on this call. So we'll all into all for, really the knowledge. And as Elder Albert, if he was here, he's super humble. He always says he is the conduit for the knowledge that has been shared with him. And he also always says that really it's the exchange of stories that's the foundation for all our relationships. And so this book is an exchange of stories and a blending of our stories. I met Elder Albert in 2020, just before Humber closed, for in-person learning for about almost 2 years. And we were doing a community consultation around a co-created land-based course that's co-taught by Indigenous and non-Indigenous faculty in the early childhood education diploma program. And we were just starting this work, and the associate dean asked if she thought that maybe we would like to have Elder Albert Marshall come to Humber and speak with us and speak and visit Humber. And I had not met him, though I had used a lot of his work in my doctorate work. And of course we said yes. And the rest is really 5 years of beautiful work together at Humber with this book. And so I'm going to read a little bit. I'm just checking my text at the same time, just to make sure that Albert's not emailing me. Yeah. So when we walk together in a good way, we learn to see the world through 2 eyes. Actually need to meet at the bottom. We receive the gifts of Mother Earth through stories. So this storybook begins at the end of winter and the beginning of spring. And we always read it with many finger puppets and many hand puppets and lots of props and silk scarves and things that move. And when we read it, it's very interactive. The first time we read it was actually at the Banff conference last year. That was the first time. The book had just come out, and it was the first time that Elder Albert and I had a chance to read it together. So we're really grateful to to the Outdoor Learning Store for being able to read, and then to also keynote this year reading the book. Oops. All right. There we are. And so I'm from Tikaronto, from Toronto, which is a Mohawk word for where the trees are standing in the water. Treaty 13, part of the dish with one spoon wampum. And Elder Albert Marshall is from Eskasoni in Unamagi, Mi'kmaq territory. And these are I guess it's the left. On the left is Goat Island, just a stone's throw from where Elder Albert lives. And on the right is the Humber Arboretum. And they're so similar in terms of the connections to water and connection to land. And so I saw these 2 photos and I thought, let's put those in. And that's in springtime for us, and just the end of winter for Elder Albert. When we walk together in a good way, things are revealed. We hear those who are returning and those who stayed sing the lands and waters awake after a deep rest. And then, of course, we have Robin, who's returning. Red-winged blackbird. And of course, Chickadee, who never went away. And I love this, is one of my favorite, you know, the braid that edges the ponds. And we have 3 ponds in the Humber Arboretum. So the course that I co-teach is on 250 acres in the Humber Arboretum. It's 14 weeks completely on the land, rain, sun, shine, snow. And we have 3 beautiful ponds. So the frogs and the turtles are just starting to wake up in this page. When we walk together in a good way on Turtle Island, we learn we are all connected. We are never alone. We need each other. Mawigwag. Together we are strong. And this is a beautiful teaching from the late Chief Charlie Labrador from Acadia First Nation. And this really actually was the influence for how Elder Albert brought forth Etowaptamunk, the gift of multiple perspectives, or two-eyed seeing. The teaching is, look underground, the birch and the maple and the pine are holding hands. Their roots are connected. We as people must do the same. Beautiful teaching. And here, so there's us in Banff, first time we were reading. And here's just a couple of, we've been touring and reading and co-reading for the last, I guess it would be almost 16 months. And it has been so much fun. This lower left photo with Elder Albert's grandchildren, he received the Inspire Indigenous Award for Lifetime Achievement. And that's part of his video. And if you can look it up online. It's a beautiful video where he's reading the book. And there's his other grandchild. Here we are reading with the preschoolers. Love this little one. He's drawing while we're reading. This is at the Breath of Fresh Air Summit with Outdoor Play Canada in September last year. This one, love this. Read the middle one. Read with toddlers, and you better bring 2 books, because that toddler was running away with that book and he was not giving it back. Luckily, I had another one. Reading with infants. Lovely, lovely interactions here. And with the infants and toddlers, we enlarge the book and we laminate it so we can always read it outside. It's the elders gathering in Peterborough, Catholic school here in Truth and Reconciliation Day last year. This is a library up in the National Amboro Park in Bolivia, Sweet Pea, with the gifting the book to the libraries, and Annick's beautiful editors and supporters. It was really a gift to work with Annick and to work with Elder Albert to put this book together, and with Emily. Just a gift. CBC Kids and Gary the Unicorn. If you know Gary the Unicorn, we did a little video in one of the Toronto Public Libraries. Drag Queen Story Time, chose the book, loved the book. This is in Fernie, BC at a forest nature program. Never travel without the relatives. They have their own suitcase and they're always carry on. And so a lot of the puppets we use are Folk Manus and Audubon. This is Humber College with our early childhood education students. Here's Elder Albert reading with us. This is a Mi'kmaq language conference just this past May where we read right on the water. It was beautiful. Here we are in Banff. And so a lot of the connections to the book have been to help people get outside and to understand what is two-eyed seeing. Everybody understands it a little bit differently, and the words have their story, and the photographs of the illustrations have their story as well. When we walk together in a good way, we learn the languages of the land. What is the land teaching you? How are you connecting through spirit, heart, mind, body? We take only if there's enough. We ask before we take. We listen for the answer. You can't see the bottom here. We share. We sing the Mother Earth song. We say thank you, Walalan, Miigwech. These are the maple trees in the Humber Arboretum. When we walk together in a good way, frog is one of our teachers. We wait, listen, and watch for frog near the ponds. We breathe in the stillness. So it's a beautiful story about our connection to frog in the Humber Arboretum and the Mi'kmaq legend about how the bullfrog hoarded the water and the consequences of not sharing. The stories of the waters and the lands and the teachings of the flyers, the crawlers, the swimmers, and the four-leggeds grow inside us. Like flossy milkweed seeds, they are carried on the winds for future generations. When we walk together in a good way, we learn not only to see the world, but to know the world through two eyes. So if Albert were here with us, he would talk about, like the other authors spoke about, our actions today. We want to be good ancestors and how to impact for today, but for the future generations, to create space for each other's ways. Talked about ethical space, unlearning, relearning through co-learning, and to use our gifts to enact our inherent responsibilities to Mother Earth. We all have gifts, and to know what our purpose is through our gifts. There's an educator guide on Anik Press. We have an Instagram at Walking Together Book, and when we walk together, we are together. Some beautiful illustrations from the grade 2 children when we went to read to them. And Albert always says, nature has rights, we have responsibilities. There is hope. If we all work together, we will make a difference. And I think that, we are all on our paths. And when people come into our paths, as Elder Albert shared with me, we don't question it. We understand the energy. We just take the energy and we work with that energy. We don't question why. And so I'm sorry that he could not be here with us, but he's definitely here in spirit. And, thank you for the opportunity. All the books that were mentioned, oops, put my password on. All the books that were mentioned, we have in our course library. So I just want to say kudos to everybody for, for beautiful book and beautiful content. I think that's it. Let's see. Yep, that's it. I don't know if that was 10 minutes, but I think it might have been.
I think it was beautiful. It was exactly what it needed to be. I definitely stacked the resources this workshop because I just, like I said, I couldn't say no to the ones and the relationships we have. And you're beautiful, the work you and Albert have done and how you touch people. And actually my arm is in that picture from the conference. I'm the left-hand butterfly. And it was a magical moment. And we got everyone to write a word on those post-it notes, right? And people posted their thoughts and feelings on the wall, and it was magic. And Elder Albert has been a great teacher to myself personally and to people at the conference. And so I'm sorry he couldn't be here, everyone. But thank you to those who stuck around. It is, and Louise, thank you. Well, Arlen, you're amazing, always.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody. I wonder if all of our amazing educators and authors and speakers could just turn their cameras on for 1 second to wave goodbye. Everyone don't leave. We're going to do 4 prizes really, really quick. But I just want to say thank you to our incredible people, your knowledge, your effort, your time, your commitments to reconciliation, your gifts to us so that we can reconcile is incredible. Thank you so much. Amazing. Please feel free to go forth, but I am going to pick 4 winners for 2 $25 gift cards to the Outdoor Learning Store, so you could choose one of these favorite books, and 2 to this Take Me Outside store. And again, if you buy with us, we are both charitable non-profits, so all of those things that go back into supporting these creators and getting kids outside for learning. So okay, going to do a really quick thing. Thank you, everyone. Okay, first winner, Darcy Teal, like the color teal. Darcy Teal, you've won a $25 gift card to the Outdoor Learning Store. We will contact you soon. Next winner is Jennifer Spencer. Jennifer Spencer, you are our second winner. Congratulations. Third winner, and Take Me Outside gift card, is Mary Dresser. Mary Dresser. And our fourth and final winner for the day is Zanab Habib. Zanab Habib, you're our fourth and final winner. appreciate each and every one of you for your knowledge, your kindness, and your gifts. And to the 1.1 thousand people who showed up today, what a magical space. Good night, everyone. Thank you so much for your time.